couple of weeks ago, I did a workshop on AI modeling. And since then, things have evolved quite a bit and stabilized enough. So maybe it's time to let this monster out of the box and let some other people figure out how to get some mileage out of it if it works. Models are the way that I understand the world. I learned some time ago that I can only think about one thing at a time, though if I develop a model, I can sit here and ponder a whole bunch of relationships simultaneously. And I also learned that for 4 decades, or more than 4 decades, I developed models that were flawed based upon my level of ignorance because of what I didn't know that I didn't know. And now that I'm actually using AI to help me figure out what to actually put in the model, I'm consistently amazed at things that end up in the model, and I look at them and say, wow, I wouldn't have thought of that, but it sure makes sense. So in terms of how I get to these kinds of models, if I go to Google Gemini and go to Canvas and say, upload a file, and I upload this file called CLDV8, which is my template, and then say, use the uploaded HTML file as a template and create a causal loop diagram about the relationships for a failed tariff implementation. Relationships I probably should figure out how to spell someday. And I tell it to go ahead. And what Gemini does is it uses the template, which is, I don't know, some 30 iterations of evolution in Gemini, adding something. And every time I would get something that worked, I would save it and use it for a while I figured out what else it made sense to add to it, and then add it and create another template. And this says version 8, but it's probably version 38 or something like that. But what it does is it goes out and thinks about all of the relationships associated with a failed tariff implementation, and it actually writes a bunch of HTML code intended to be able to display that model specifically. And but it displays it in such a way that you can move the pieces, and every one of the pieces has a description. You can play with or change the curvature. I'm trying to make this small enough so that I can expand it so that you can actually read the labels. So, I mean, you never know what it's going to come up with in terms of a layout because it's essentially on autopilot. So here are these pieces that it thinks are all related to a failed tariff implementation, and it talks about where do you start? Someplace. The export costs reduces the export volume, which then increases domestic production, or supposedly, and domestic production decreases import costs, which, all right, and you have to go ahead and you can look at them. There are comments on all of the relationships and all of the elements. It also identifies all of the loops that exist so that you can look at the loops. And if it can figure out what to call it, it does. Otherwise, it says it's just a loop that was identified based upon the relationships. And the thing is, you can, once you get this, you can continue to ask questions and interact to ask it about other pieces. You can also take this code and share it and copy the contents. If I then take that and put it in a text file and save it, and I'll save it as, you can't see where I'm saving it, but because I haven't shared my whole screen. tariff.html, TARI.html. So I save that file as HTML, and then I open it. This is an HTML file that you can share with other people, and it has all of the pieces in it. And you could you or me or somebody else could actually reload this text HTML file back into Gemini Canvas and continue to elaborate its development based upon what questions you have looking at the set of relationships. So in terms of here, if I look at this, I could then say, well, I have two things that are influencing government revenue, but it doesn't influence anything else, which is sort of inappropriate. So I could say, okay, please elaborate the model to add what government influences. And it'll go think about this for a while and figure out what it thinks that government revenue influences that's already on the map, and maybe some other things that aren't on the map. And it will go ahead and rewrite the code to go ahead and extend the causal loop diagram. And, I said that I'm continually amazed at how much I don't know about things that I'm interested in. And the AI helps me understand relationships that I wasn't aware of. And the fact that it documents everything, the elements, the relationships, the loops, to give me a better sense of what comes into play. So if I open this up and look for government revenue, it says government revenue enhances government spending, which enhances domestic production, which you may or may not agree with, but you can continue to ask these questions about the model to get a better sense of all of the things that are related in terms of a failed tariff implementation policy. And that you can save it as an HTML file and later just load the HTML file back in and ask Gemini additional questions. So you don't have to save everything that happens, because all of the relationships are part of the causal loop diagram, and you can reload them back in. Now, this is probably going to continue to evolve in the future, and in the comments section of the video, I will post a link to this place in one of my brains, which is all of the stuff that's happening with regard to the evolution of these pieces and some of the recently developed models that I've done. And, there's been some people who have had file export problems. If you're going to export into an HTML, you have to ensure that it's actually plain text and there isn't any formatting characters that are part of the problem, because then it will interpret it as not an HTML file. And the thing is, here are the four loops that it thinks are here. There's one there, and you can study this loop, and this one, and this one, and this one, to better understand what's happening. And you can close this. So that's what I've been up to for the last couple of months. I'm absolutely fascinated by where it's ended up. It's doing far better than I thought it would do. Be aware, though, that I tell people that I'm fascinated by LLMs because it's an opportunity to have a conversation with the most knowledgeable entity I will ever meet, that has the patience of a saint, never becomes defensive, never tires of my stupid questions, but sometimes makes mistakes. And I can live with that because of the benefits that I gain from it. Now, when you do this, sometimes it will forget to put the labels on here, and sometimes it will forget to put the estimated interaction period of that relationship. And you have to go ahead and say, you forgot to put the labels on the relationships. Will you go back and add them? And it will do it. I mean, you're talking to something that's building a picture for you so that you can ask it whatever questions you want to ask it, and say, you can ask it, tell me why you included this element, or does this element influence something else? And is there a relationship between domestic employment and black market supply? And I mean, there might be, there might not be, but if there is one, it'll find it and add it to the model. So that's what I'm up to. I'm currently posting these. I'm doing these several a day because the number of topics that fascinate me just seems to be endless. And it is what it is. So, if you want to have a chat about any of this stuff, my email address is in the notes section of this video. Just send me an email and we'll set up a time to chat. So take care. Bye.